Right then, good morning. Welcome to the third edition of Town Talk Live here in More Music Studio in Whittlesey, near Peterborough. We've got a very, very special guest today, local town councillor, Mr. ChrisBoden. Chris, thank you so much for coming in.
Good morning to you, Matt, and thank you for inviting me.
Oh, it's great to have you with us, and we've got one or two nice questions for you here this morning that have been sent in. Let's go with question one. The Whittlesey Relief Roads. You sit on the strategic bodies of both Whittlesey and Southern Relief Roads, and you have a seat on the combined authority. But some residents are stuck in a gridlock today. When will we see actual boots on the ground, or are we just going to keep spending public money on endless paperwork and business cases? Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Matt. Well, politicians have a reputation for not answering the question which is asked. So let me first of all answer the question by saying I hope that it will be in the late 2030s that we'll get the Southern Relief Road. It's a hope, not a guarantee. As you may know, it took 40 years to get the Kingstide Bridge built. I hope it won't take 40 years to get the Southern Relief Road built, because you're quite correct. People are already suffering gridlock, but I can promise you it's going to get worse. It will get worse as we get more houses built, which have been given permission. It will get worse as we get more traffic coming through Whittlesey. And not only are we going to have gridlock on the A605, particularly at the Cemetery Road and the Kelly Vision roundabouts, but we are going to start seeing more and more rat running taking place as cars and heavy goods vehicles start using back roads to get around the gridlock that will be on the main roads particularly at rush hour. So it is going to be difficult. And you're right. I think in asking about the endless paperwork and business cases, unfortunately, that's the way major projects have to be done in this country. And unbelievably, there's a 7-stage process you've got to go through when you've got a major idea such as the Whittlesey Southern Relief Road. You start off with an outline business case, then you've got to have an outline strategic business case, then you've got to have a strategic business case, and then you've got to have a strategic business case, and only then do you start getting into the implementation of starting to actually build the thing. And that is what's required in order to get the funding at national level to be able to build anything at all of any substance in this country. And I'm afraid it's way beyond my pay grade to change that system. So what we did in Whittlesey, first of all, we paid for the outline business case, which was positive. We've now moved on to the outline strategic business case, which we've part completed. And I'm hoping with a report that I'm getting later this year from Fenland District Council, a technical report about the A605's capacity and its overall resilience, I'm hoping that that will be positive enough that Paul Bristow, as the Mayor of the Combined Authority, will then fund the remainder of the outline business case for 27-28, and will then be able to move on to the strategic business case after that. Sorry, you are quite correct in saying it seems like endless paperwork and business cases. That's the way the systems work, I'm sorry to say.
Cool. Strategic is a big word in the council, isn't it? Really. But getting back to that, people don't understand that. They just think, comes to you, goes to Fenland, thing does. But obviously, as you've just pointed out now, there's a lot more strategy into getting it right. And it's a long old... How long would you say, at a rough guess, that would take to get through?
Well, as I say, I would hope that we were talking about the late next decade that we'd actually get it on the ground. But it is years you go from one stage to the next stage, and most of this is nothing to do with Fenland, because Fenland isn't really to do with our local roads. I've only managed to get Fenland money involved because of the local plan, and I'm using the local plan work on transport to feed into the campaign to get the Southern Relief Road in place. But it is ever so frustrating. It's difficult to explain to people why we're not just starting something which obviously is going to be needed. But that is the way things work, I'm sorry to say.
Yeah, it's opened my eyes quite a bit, to be honest with you, with all the different levels you have to go through. Right, we'll pop on to question 2. Question 2, excuse me, is low taxes versus infrastructure decay. As leader of Fenland and Finance Chair for the Town Council, you champion low council tax, but our local infrastructure is clearly creaking under the strain, which I simply agree with. Are you underfunding Whittlesey just to protect a political talking point about low taxes?
Well, I'm delighted you've asked this question, and I have to correct you about one thing, and that is low taxes isn't just a political talking point. There's a principle involved in this, and the principle, as far as I'm concerned, as far as many other people are concerned, is that people should keep as much of their own money as possible, as they can spend it more efficiently and effectively and more wisely than the state or the local council can. So there's that really important principle which is involved here. But then you've got the question which you specifically asked about local infrastructure. And as far as Whittlesey Town Council and Fenland District Council is concerned, we're actually not responsible for for hardly any local infrastructure at all. It's not our responsibility. And where we do have responsibility for infrastructure, such as, for example, the town council allotments, we put a significant amount of money into that as far as the fencing is concerned, only in the last year or two. As far as the district council is concerned, again, we haven't got responsibility for much infrastructure. But give one example where we do have responsibility is leisure, and the Manor Leisure Centre. And you've got what's going to be effectively a £20 million up to the minute modern facility which is going to be built there, which is going to last for 40 years. When I say it's going to be built, the final decision will be made next September, and I've got every confidence that the decision will be a positive one. So it's not the case that there's a connection between low council tax in our area and the amount of infrastructure that we've got, since as far as the town and the district councils are concerned, we have very little to do with the building of infrastructure.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's frankly down to what people want to hear. It's, as I said, these questions have come in from the public, and it's quite eye-opening with your answers. Question 3. You're a town councillor, a district leader, and a county councillor. When district and county priorities inevitably clash, how do you manage the blatant conflict of interest? Which seat of your loyalty, when in Whittlesey's interest, are on the line?
Yeah, well, that's a really good question, and the answer isn't the obvious one, because there isn't normally any clash, and the reason there normally isn't any clash is that different levels of council have different responsibilities. So it's not that Fenland might have an opinion on one thing and County Council has a different opinion on the same thing, since they don't share the responsibility for many services. That's not always the case, but also all of the levels of council should be aiming towards the same thing, which is improving the lives of local people.
Correct.
So in that sense, and we can always have political differences, we can always have personal differences about what that means, but generally we're all working in the same direction anyway. But there can be occasions when you do have a clash, and I have seen occasions, and I've never done it myself, where on the same issue, a councillor has voted one way in the county council, and then on exactly the same issue, just a few days later, they voted the other way in the district council. And I don't find that an acceptable way of doing things. As I say, it doesn't happen often, but it happened fairly recently, for example, with local government reorganisation and the way in which our new councils will be set up. Fenland and Cambridge County Councils are going to be abolished on the 31st of March 2028, and what follows has been the subject of quite a lot of discussion and debate, and we'll get the information about what will follow in an announcement which takes place next week. And there I did have a clash between what was happening at county and what was happening at district. So what I did, I put forward the interests of the local people, and I did it the same way both at county as I did at district. We had it also, I'm sorry to say, much more recently and shamefully, with the Scoldgate Centre. Now, this should have nothing at all to do with Fenland District Council, because it's to do with Cambridge County Council, Chiltern services and the like. And because of what I believe is an appalling decision which has been made by the County Council to dispose of the Scoldgate Centre, it's been necessary... Oh, I better not say too much. I have had to intervene. I've made some comments on the public record, and I will be making an announcement at the FDC Cabinet meeting on tomorrow afternoon about the need for us in Fenland District Council to pick up the pieces that Cambridgeshire County Council have created. So sometimes there is a clash, and when there is a clash, in my opinion, you go for what's necessary most locally.
Yeah, we are. Well, let's face it, Scoldgate Centre is a cracking centre. From when it was a youth to when it was first built. It's gone through a number of changes, but it could come back. It's a great community asset. I think, funny enough, you Alan, were talking about the Manor not too long back. They've done the Manor, and all the new plans and everything look terrific. But there seems to be lacking in maybe an outside venue put onto the Manor, an outside stage type thing that would be attached to the Manor that would attract people down there for concerts and different bits and bobs. I think that lacks there. I think we do lack. It's more sportified than what it is community-fied in that way.
And that's because it is designed for and meant for and financed for primarily for sports purposes.
Okay.
Having said that, we still need it to have some degree of flexibility so that it can be used, for example, for community purposes, for social purposes as well. And that's why design has been put into that to ensure that it could be used for evening events in a far better way than must be the case currently, with a proper kitchen and with what's effectively a very large space which can be created so that it can be used for dancers, for family events, whatever it may be.
Okay.
Because we're really lacking increasingly in such locations here in Whittlesey.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that at all. We had an email coming yesterday from Mr. John Elworthy that ties into this a little bit. John sent in a serious question for Councillor Boden. Given your roles at Fenland District Council, at Cambridgeshire County Council, at Combined Authority, and in London as City of London Councillor, and as a Whittlesey Town Councillor, plus membership to countless committees, some may say you're spreading yourself a little bit thin. What would be your answer to that, Chris?
I'd like more work. I'd like to do more. I'd like more opportunity to serve the people. And in many cases, these different organisations, the county council, the district council, the combined authority, many of the things which are done across the different authorities. So it actually helps if you're involved in all of them, because then if someone comes to you and says, I've got this problem, you can't hide and say, oh, that's nothing to do with me. You go to the county council for that. You've got responsibility in all areas. So being in that position actually helps. But it actually increases the amount of information I've got, the knowledge I've got, and the ability to influence that I've got by being on those different bodies. But I'm being quite serious. I would welcome more in order to achieve more. And I've got plenty of capacity still, to be quite honest, because as far as I'm concerned, most of my work, most of my living day, most of my waking day, and quite a bit of my sleeping day as well, but most of my waking day is spent dealing with council business, and I enjoy it. I enjoy it especially when I actually get some results, which isn't always, I have to say. Sometimes you don't get the results you want, but you really value it when you do get the results you want. But to do that, you just need to work, and I'm not afraid of hard work.
No, nobody can say you are, Chris, but I mean, I can see where John's made his point. To the average person walking out, you'd think, this, and this. Too much. Can't give 110% to one.
No, well, just take as an example, just look at Fenland District Council. They've just published their attendance records for meetings for the last year. I've got a 100% record. I'm not saying I'm the only councillor, although there aren't many who've got a 100% record. I've got a 100% record because I plan things and I put the work in.
Yep.
And I don't take holidays as much as I should do.
No, well, funny enough, I put in a freedom of information and attendance at the local council, at the town council. And yeah, I'll back you up on that. There are one or two on there that do the odd, how shall we say, I must go to Whittlesey for a day out. And whether they stop all the time or not, I don't know. But yeah, you do. And I've got the records here to prove that, so I will back you up on that statement. But I wish you well with that, but surely pressure must come under you when thinking, I'm playing A against B, and C against D, and maybe D and C maybe get together and go against A. It must be a full-time job, but as you say, you jump off of that, you get a kick off of that.
I do. What is not so healthy is when it intrudes into the dreams. And it does sometimes intrude into my dreams, and I'm not sure that's the healthiest thing in the world.
Yeah.
But I really do enjoy it, and as I say, I enjoy the victories. And yes, you're correct, it can be very complicated, but that's politics with a small p. And you've got to be able to manage people's expectations, you've got to be able to negotiate, and that way you get the best you can for your local community.
Good.
You never get everything.
No. But one little bit is worth 20 of not getting it, don't you think?
No, I wouldn't accept that ratio as being a good one. But I have to say that sometimes I've moved heaven and earth to achieve things for people, and you don't get any gratitude for it. In other cases, I've really tried hard and failed on something which should be really simple, and I get copious thanks from a person for having tried even though I'd failed. Yeah. So people regard what you do in very, very different ways, and at the end of the day, you've got to be able to live with yourself and accept that you've done the best you've possibly been able to do, even if you haven't been successful on every occasion.
No. Well, I'll give you a round of applause for that, Chris. We'll put a track in for the moment. Let's have a top up with the water in this hot studio. I'm going to play a bit of ABBA. It's not your type of thing, but we're getting there. Good morning to you all. You are here today with me, Matt Page, on Town Talk Live, and you are listening to our special guest today, Mr. ChrisBoden from Whittlesey Town Council. He's been quite good on the questions so far. Made me panic a little bit. But Chris, we're going to do now the everyday debate round. Just 10 questions, and we just want a straight answer. Please, if you will. Question 1. What is your ultimate go-to sandwich and combination? What would it be? Cheese and onion? No.
Not even a combination. Plain cheese. Oh, with butter.
Yeah.
On white.
On white.
Thank you very much.
But would that... well, if you would have known, we'd have got you one of them. But would that be strong cheese, or would it be a mild cheddar?
This would be a fairly mild cheese.
Cheese. Question 2. Are you a morning person, a night owl, or permanently exhausted pigeon?
I jump up in the morning with enthusiasm for the day. I always go to bed late at night with a regret of how little I'd managed to achieve of what I tried to achieve starting off at the first thing in the morning. I do more in the mornings than I do at other times, but in the evenings I've got more time to do more leisurely things such as reply to emails.
Are you a coffee or a tea person?
Now I don't drink tea at all, so I drink coffee, but not an enormous amount.
Okay. What is the absolute worst movie you have ever watched all the way to the end?
I'd say I just didn't enjoy Love, Actually. I found that to be a hopelessly sentimental film.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that. But I have got one or two big ones in there. Right. Question 4. Cereal.
There are some which are worse, but they're so bad that they're funny.
Yeah.
So I don't count those.
No. Question 4. Cereal first or milk first? Choose wisely, because this defines your character.
I don't eat cereal at all, except when I'm in a hotel having breakfast, and it's always the cereal first. Always
the cereal first. I don't know whether you do this. Question 5. What is your go-to karaoke song?
No.
Yeah, that was short and sweet. Question 6. What is the most useless piece of trivia taking up space in your brain at this present time?
The details of the Local Government Act 1972, which were repealed by the 1983 Representation of the People's Act.
Okay, that's the way it's leading to be. Question 7. Are you a pack a week before or a pack 10 minutes before a taxi arrives kind of person?
Oh, I always pack last minute.
Last minute, yeah. Question 8. What is the single worst job you have ever had in your life?
Every single job that I've had, I've been able to find satisfaction out of. Some of those jobs, temporary jobs, I wouldn't have wanted to do all my life, but I think you get out of a job what you can put into it. And I've been fortunate that I've been able to get satisfaction out of every job, so I wouldn't say any job has been bad.
Cool. You're a one-off, you, Chris. I'll have to say it's a cracker. Question 9. Ketchup. Does it belong in the fridge or in the cupboard?
I have for years had a real dislike for ketchup on the grounds that if food is nice, then why do you need to spoil it with ketchup? What? I don't apply that to something like vinegar, for example, which exactly the same could apply, but I can't put too much vinegar on chips. But I've mellowed a bit on ketchup over the years, and now I will accept it on burgers, but not on the best quality burgers. But on most burgers and hot dogs, I now have ketchup, and I keep it in the fridge.
Do you put mustard on?
No.
No. That's short and sharp. Yeah. 10. Your last question. What is the popular trend right now that you absolutely do not get?
A lot of the public performance that there is on things like TikTok, which I find to be pointless, to be quite honest. A lot of people spend a lot of time doing things and doing things in public. I really don't understand the necessity to display your whole life and all the minutiae involved in it.
No, do you think social media, just going off slightly on a tangent, do you think social media is a good thing or a bad thing?
Depends how it's used.
Yeah.
And it's always easy to say that new things are bad, but there's so much which is good about social media as well. There are bad sides to it, there's some very bad sides to it. But you don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater. And the thing is to embrace change, and where it's necessary to regulate better. We're talking here, for example, about what happens with under 16s and social media. If it's necessary to regulate, then you regulate. But don't just ban something just because some parts of it are bad.
No. So I personally call it now, it's great for the station, in certain areas. But I personally call it antisocial behaviour, antisocial. So it's the way, to me, it's good.
It depends how you use it. I do post on local Facebook pages, but I restrict it, or try to restrict it, just to information. And one or two individuals try to drag me down into political discussion or worse, and I resist that, because if you're going to start wrestling with a pig in the mud, it's only the pig who's going to really enjoy it at the end of the day. And unfortunately, I know if I start going down that road, I'll go right down to the bottom. So I don't start going down that road. Just keep it to information.
Yeah, steady away. Right, back to another question. Question 4. You've stated that Whittlesey has reached a legal and practical tipping point, and that we shouldn't allow any more major housing developments until the Southern Relief Road is built. But as leader of the council, you are the one in charge of local plans. If the roads are already at breaking point, why is your administration allowed Whittlesey to get so dangerously overdeveloped in the first place?
Well, there's an assumption in that question which is wrong. That assumption is that councillors are in charge of permissions for house building.
Yeah.
And whilst it might appear so, since at the moment, all applications for house building have to go to the local planning authority, which in our case is Fenland, for house building. Although that will change after September, because most of the applications won't be allowed to go to councillors at all. They'll be decided by officials, which is disgraceful. But whilst that is the case, councillors aren't free to choose what they approve and what they don't approve, because the government controls things ultimately through what's called the National Planning Policy Framework. And if you go against that national policy planning framework, then anyone who has a refusal for their application for a planning application can appeal to the government inspectorate, and the government inspectors will overturn the decision, the refusal, which is made by the local council, and charge us locally for doing so. So we don't have as much freedom as you might imagine. And this occurred to me not long after I became a councillor, when I successfully argued against the Showfield showground development taking place in Whittlesey, and I spoke to at the planning committee meeting, and they agreed unanimously to oppose it. And then the officers managed to persuade the planning committee members that would be against the national planning policy framework. They needed to re-vote, and then they re-voted unanimously in favour of the planning application. That was a real lesson to me, where you can win the argument, you can be right, and you still lose.
Yes.
And so councillors don't have as much control as you might imagine, but we'll have more control when it comes to having a new local plan, which we're working on at the moment. But people don't realise an argument that we don't have sufficient GPs or we don't have sufficient education places, they will not work in planning terms, because the planning inspectorate will say, oh, just make it a requirement under Section 106 that contributions have to be made, even though the developers say there isn't enough profit in Whittlesey to do that, or in Fenland to do that, because of low house prices. So none of those arguments actually can be used. What can be used, however, is the infrastructure problem that we've got, that our roads are inadequate and lack resilience. So it's that I'm really concentrating on, to argue, to be able to stop the yet more applications coming through for 200, 300 houses at a time in Whittlesey, Coates, Eastleigh or wherever, trying to stop that from continuing. I hope I'm going to be successful within 12 months on now.
Well, I hope you are, because it's Barry Wainwright who came in on the very first one. He said that's what he was striving for. But he had different points of view to you. But I think you made a lot of sense there. Your next question. You've warned the combined authority that skills, inequality and deprivation are holding Fenland back. You have been leader of this council for many years now. If deprivation is still a major issue, isn't that a direct failure of your own leadership?
I think that you don't appreciate just how small the effect of a district council is in an area and an area's economy. The overwhelming majority of the economy is in the private sector, and what the council does at best is to facilitate what happens rather than to change it. And we have to distinguish very carefully between so-called deprivation and lack of skills. Deprivation is a term which is used, measured for government purposes by the index of multiple deprivation, which involves a lot of calculations on different areas of education, health and wealth. And it's really difficult for local government to influence that, except one way they can influence it, and it does happen in some places, is to change the demographics. If you start building hundreds and thousands of houses, particularly expensive houses importing more affluent people, then you'll change your statistics. Now, we're certainly not doing that in Fenland, but it's really difficult to change that overall figure of deprivation, because index of multiple deprivation, because it is almost inherent with what you've inherited in the past and what will change in the future. And the same applies on skills. Skills take a lot of time to change. I've been arguing for years that more money needs to be put into skills. Difficulty is, we've got 4 different towns and lots of little villages, and it's really difficult to get people to the provision.
Yeah, I understand that. Just going off at a tangent now, just a little bit. I bumped into a bloke the other week, and we were talking about where we live, and he said to me, like, where do you live? I said, I live in Whittlesey near Peterborough. And he said, what do you think? I said, well, it's a bit of this and a bit of that. And he says, you're looking at your town the wrong way. He said, what you should be looking at your town as is if you were a holiday maker coming into your town and what you would like to see in that town, which I think is a cracking idea. I think it's a cracking way to go. I think the town centre could do with a little bit of a boost, but it's held back in some respects. Knowing the council as I do now, I can see where you are all trying to push forward. But not everybody agrees with you, do they? It's quite hard. Whereas the only example I can think of is, let me say, the grass, right? The grass around town. That was going to be one of the next questions. Now, years ago, I used to be the town grass cutter when it was the urban district, right? Now, I was given every Monday, I used to have to go down, when it was down Inham's Road. I don't know whether you were here then, but I used to go there. And I used to get a sheet of paper, right? And I had to go round. I was the man, because I was in my younger days, shall we say, I was a bit more energetic. I had to go around with the walking lawnmower and cut round the trees and everything on the sides for the older guy on the machine. Now, we used to keep that trimmed every week. We had to do that. And we got so well in doing it, I ended up cutting grass in the graveyard as well, because I'd go on top of it and we'd go down there and cut the food. But now it seems, I mean, when across the road where I live, it looked like a wheat field the other week, but now they've got on top of it. They've trimmed it all up. But I'm not kidding you, it was nearly 18 inches high.
Right. Well, you didn't give me notice about this, but it's really interesting that you've gone back now more than 52 years to the which is 52 years, really? More than 52 years since the Urban District Council was abolished. But you've actually hit on something which is quite important.
Yeah.
And that is that you were doing something really locally. What we have now, for the vast majority of grass verges that we've got, that it's county council who control it, for the vast majority, and because it's highways. And as far as they're concerned, there's a contract, and that contract is fulfilled the best way it can be. There are problems with weather, you'll understand that.
Yeah.
But generally, there is a contract, and they do what they believe to be the minimum necessary in order to keep safety. In fact, they didn't even really do that about 3 years ago. As was the case in a number of places around the country, they started to think that by failing to cut the grass, they would do some sort of rewilding which would help wildlife. It certainly made quite a few people wild, that's for sure. And what was even worse was their refusal to clean up to take the growth away from the gutters and to allow weeds to grow up out of the drains and out of the gutters, which was absolutely disgraceful. But the actual answer lies in your question. And it is something which I'm looking towards when it comes to local government reorganisation, which is coming in April 28. And that is that we should be devolving responsibility for things like grass cutting to our local town and parish councils. I'm not saying they have to pay for it, but I can tell you they would do it more efficiently and cost effectively than it can be done at a larger level, because there'll be a lot less bureaucracy involved.
Correct.
And if you're still up for the job, I know it might be more than 52 years since you last did it, but just put your name in and you'll be considered along with everyone else. But joking apart, it was the fact that it was local which made it more responsive and effective. And we could go back to that, in my opinion. And we should go back to that.
I don't disagree with that at all, because, and I weren't having a go with that. I was just saying how over the years, he used to give me a sheet of paper and he'd expect it to be done, you know. And we did have a nice tidy town then, but it's the guys now that come, as you say, if it's got to be done, they do it. They must be praying to God that the weather stays like this, because when it's sunny like this, the grass don't grow. Not as fast as what it used to. I mean, I could tell you some things going back when I was on the grass cutting, but... And
I'm sure you know a lot more about it than I do. But I've got a story to tell you which will shock you. And that is that it is in Fenland, but not in Whittlesey. It was only a couple of years ago. You had the grass verge growing next to a farmer's field. And this grass verge didn't just have grass in it, it had all sorts of weeds. And there was a significant amount of, I didn't even know this was a word at the time, weed seed, which was going from the grass verge onto the farmer's land. So what the farmer did was to cut the grass verge. And do you know what the county council did? It threatened him that if he did it again, they'd charge him with theft. That attitude is so wrong.
Yeah, it is.
In so many ways, and it's such a bureaucratic attitude.
Yeah, and that would turn the public against the council straight off, wouldn't it?
Oh, you don't need to turn the public against a council, especially the county council responsible for highways. They're already against it.
Yeah. I mean, something similar to that. There was Wetherspoons, the double yellow lines, you know, they go out, don't they? They just because it's got that raised curve, they paid for it, painted it, and then Fenland had a go at them, but 4 weeks later they put double yellow lines down it anyway. You know, so it's I don't know, there's no sense in that matter. Right. Deplorable public toilets. Now, I was at a meeting with the council when I was in there listening on one day, and this was brought up. Could you explain to us roughly, through your knowledge, the standard of the toilets are a mess. Now, they said at that meeting, the trouble is nothing's been done, is that when they were put in, they're really old locks, and they can't find replacements. So, although Councillor D. Laws has said she's found somebody who could repair them, which came out of that meeting. But if they were clean spots, I know people, not youngsters and things like that. I know we had homeless people sleeping in one, and some of the others, I don't understand the youth of today, I must admit, for wrecking toilets, or if it is youth, it can be anybody, we don't know. But I see public toilets in the town as a good asset, because they used to be in the old car park, they used to be at the back of the library, they used to be where the doctor's place is down Queen Street, there was toilets in the back of that, you know. When I first moved into the town, when I first got married, there's a guy called Billy, and he was known for sweeping the town square up every day. He'd singing Billy, they're called, because he used to sing songs. And the song he used to sing was Mammy, right? So you'd be there at 6 o'clock in the morning waiting for the bus. Mammy, how I love you, or Swanee, or whatever. But I think public toilets, if they're well looked after, are a good asset for the town, especially those ones at the back of the Jewels. And I think, personally speaking, the George get the benefits of music on the square, as we both know. The George put no money into it at all. Right? It's the same with all the little places around there. Now, if they were chipped in so much, they could do all them toilets. And they'd all benefit, I think. Well, the town would benefit for a full stop.
Okay. Public toilets around the country have been closing down at a remarkable rate over the last few decades. And the main reason for that, I have to say, has been, and especially locally, has been vandalism.
Yeah.
And it becomes questionable in terms of public value if you continue to have to replace doors, toilet fittings, floors, everything, time after time after time because of vandalism. That's why a decision was made, well before I became leader, that in Fenland we would reduce the provision of public toilets by Fenland District Council to one set of public toilets per town, which is where we are now. But you're right, astonishing that we've got toilets where we're reliant upon parts from Germany, which aren't easily available because the type of toilet we have is out of date anyway. Now, I've only just seen a report which is going to be coming forward to the council about how we're going to renew and replace all of the toilets that we've got, or most of the toilets that we've got in Fenland. And it's quite an appropriate time to do this as well, because under local government reform, the danger is that once we no longer have a local district council, and our new council may be based in, I don't know, Ely, St Neots. Doesn't look as though it's going to be Peterborough now, thank goodness, but it's going to be some distance away anyway. The danger is the public toilet provision will finish entirely.
Yes.
So this opportunity that I've got now, looking at the public toilets, in fact, we can't wait until this comes forward. I know things aren't good for music in the square, which is why, after Dean Laws has made comments to me, I'm looking at getting some temporary provision put in there to be able to cope, or to be able to help with music in the square this summer. But what I'm planning to do, what I'm hoping to do, when we do have a plan to completely redo the public toilets that we've got in our 4 towns, to make an offer to our town councils which they won't be able to refuse. And the reason for doing that, it's one which will not be financially burdensome to them, is it would place the toilets in a position where the new unitary authority couldn't just turn around and say, we're going to save money, we'll just close all of our public toilets. If the town council has a legal say in what's going on, as part of a legal agreement, then it won't be possible for the new unitary authority to do that. So I am, as I say, we're now considering just how we move forwards in a major refurb of the toilets, not merely a secret right across Fenland, but also we've got to think, how do we protect them against a new unitary authority which will not have the public local accountability that the Fenland District Council has got.
Cracking answer. It's right up the street for me. Yeah, brilliant. Yeah, I wish you all the best. Right. Personality. This is 10 questions based on you. They're not hard. You're just straight answers, right? Let's just go. Question 1. Introvert, extrovert.
Everyone thinks I'm an extrovert, but I'm really an introvert.
Okay. Question 2. Calm or energetic?
Oh, people think I'm energetic, but I'm actually calm.
Okay. Question 3. Optimist or realist?
I'm an optimist, but I try to make sure that what I put across to people is realistic.
You're coming on these quite clever with the answers, I must admit, Chris. You're playing one off against the other. Right?
Well, they're clever questions.
Yeah. Question 4. Patient or impatient?
Oh, you have to be patient if you're a local council. If you're impatient, you'd give up.
Question 5. Organised or spontaneous?
Have to do most things in an organised way, but I've got to be prepared to be spontaneous and take advantage of opportunities.
Answer a question with a question. You're on fine form today. Serious or playful?
Serious. Oh, but having said that, when there's the opportunity, I'm playful, but for everything which is serious, I am serious.
Okay. Curious or confident?
I think both.
Good. Thinker or doer?
More thinking than doing. I let other people do the doing, I do the thinking. I am happy to do the strategy, let other people do the hard work.
Okay. Adaptable or consistent?
I'm adaptable. I astonish myself sometimes by some of the choices, things I've been 100% against before. When I've got the information and circumstances have changed, I've astonished myself sometimes by how I've changed my opinions on related degrees.
Okay, and your final question, right? Predictable or surprising?
That's for other people to say, really, rather than me, isn't it?
Yeah, that's the way I'd answer that. Yeah, it is.
I can predict what I'm going to do.
It's just if they follow. Right, that's about it. Have you got anything to bring up what you think how the town could develop? Personally.
Well, I think the point you raised about how we look at the town is a really valid one. And yes, look at it in terms of what a visitor says. And visitors are very positive about Whittlesey, it has to be said. No one says that we've got no problems. Of course we've got problems. Everywhere has problems. But I have to say, I'd rather live in Whittlesey than any other locality anywhere nearby at all. And I think that we're very lucky in a whole host of the things we've got. Yes, we've got some crime and some antisocial behaviour, but it's nothing compared with some of what our neighbours have to deal with. And I think that it's really important that we celebrate the positive, including all the community work which is done by so many people. Celebrate the positive, but without ignoring the negatives. Let's look at those negatives and get them better, but let's not let those negatives predominate and influence how we view our own community. We've got a great community, we've got a great town.
Well, we believe in that as well. That's why this year we formed the Community Awards for More Muzic Radio. We had, I think it was 11, but since we put it out again for next year, we've got 20 where people, because we let people send in what they want. And I mean, it's a little bit different. It's the Best Next Door Neighbour Award, you know, the Best Local Event Award, the Best Local Shop, you know, and it's, I mean, one of the good things going on to shops is to see the butchers from March come into town and keep our butcher going, in theory, which I don't want to see shops close. I don't want to see vape shops every 5 minutes, I've got to be honest with you. That's my own personal grief, but I'd like to see. We went to Whitby, and Whitby. Have you been to Whitby?
Not for a very long time.
Well, Whitby's it's suffering in some ways because basically, as we know, shopping trends have changed. I mean, and some of the bigger shops that are in little towns like M&Co and things like that in Whitby are closing, but individual shops are opening, and they're not just all cafes. That they're like shoe shops, and well, you get your arty-farty, how can you put it? I'm a hippie type shop, but it's there, you know, and people go there to walk around the shops and think. We seem to lack now in Whittlesey with something for people to come and look at. You know, there's the museum, which I think the girls there do a very, very good job, but we lost out to Must Farm with some stuff which was a bit poor. But I'd just like to see it more. More. What I would like to ask you is if next year when we do the Community Awards, would you give an award away for us?
Yes, I'll be more than happy to do so.
Please, if you would. Yeah, because it's, you know, it's all the community. And you might get a bacon butty.
Or even a cheese sandwich?
Yeah, with mild cheddar. I'll hold you to that. Yeah. That's just going up on the tangent. That's another thing. Why does bread last so long nowadays? Stay soft.
No, because a lot of it's artificial.
Yeah,
that's why. And it's one of the. I know there are pluses and minuses, but it's one of the advantages of modernity and of new life and of new inventions. Things, in many cases, things are better than they were before. Wow. Now, some people would say go back to the original things, which are pure and don't have any additives in any way whatsoever. I'm not of that opinion.
No, all right. Yeah, it just amazes me because I can remember as a kid when times were hard, having stale bread as a toast. You know, I'm getting on there. But that's about it, Chris, I think. Have you enjoyed it?
Yes, well, I'm really pleased to have been invited to come here. Thank you very much indeed.
I'd like you to come back again, mate.
And I'm all in favour of having hard questions. But the one thing which is going to really change things for everyone locally in terms of the services they get are the changes to local government which are taking place in 2028, which we'll find out much more about next week. And that's going to make a big difference. And I'm sorry to say, it's not going to make a difference for the better for us.
Okay. Settled and sent it in. But let's hope people can get a grip of that and just go with it instead of rear up and do the usual thing they've got.
Well, you said before about not everyone agreeing. You're not in a position where everyone agrees. No one agrees with everything all of the time. But having said that, most people in Whittlesey, I think, don't want to become part of Greater Peterborough. And it looks as though we may avoid becoming part of Greater Peterborough.
Well, that's brilliant. That's brilliant. Yeah, I mean, I'm a Peterboroughan, believe it or not.
Oh, it's the Peterboroughians who are the worst as far as wanting not to be part of Greater Peterborough is concerned.
Thank you very much. Yeah, okay. Right, I'm going to dedicate this one to you because we were talking about it in the break. This is the Beatles, and I think you'll enjoy it.